Hey viewers, we're on Battle 8 Season 5, Deathwing versus Genestealer cults, and here's a layout of the board at the start of the battle. So here we go. So at this stage we've had Mitch Devlin and co, which are over here at the moment. They arrived here and cloaked the SS Harlock, and they proceeded to go to this building here and try and find some information out on Yars, who has the relic, and they're trying to track that down. Meanwhile, the forces of the Deathwing have evacuated that building and are assembling their forces out here, ready to take on the Genestealer cults, which are back over there. So we've got more Deathwing in reserve up here, waiting to come on board. Huge amount of Terminators, so we'll see how that goes. So we've got two types of strains of Genestealer cults here. This is this purple variant here are the residents of the Emperor's seat, and these others with the sandy bases are basically the remnants of a previous battle, which I can't remember what battle it was. Must have been Battle 6 or something like that. And they've come to join forces now that the Elysian troopers have evacuated this city. So they're all sitting here ready to go. So we've got a large amount of tanks and different variants. I think I've been over these in the preview as to the different types of units, but this is the actual layout or deployment of the Genestealers. And over here, this is what the Deathwing have got. So wait and see how this battle unfolds. Here we are on the first half of turn 1, and the Genestealers have stolen the initiative and taken first turn. Let's have a look and see what's happened. The Manticore here has had a long range attack at this Land Raider up here, which was fairly exposed. Probably expecting that they're going to get first crack. It's still operational, so we'll wait and see what happens there. Everyone else has basically just moved up into defensive positions. No one else shot. We've basically had the gangers move up in the lead, and a lot of the tanks are sitting at the back, hopefully going to get into position and bombard the enemy as they advance as well. So really not a lot to report at the first half of turn 1, apart from the Manticore firing a shot at the Land Raider. And that's it. We'll wait and see what happens next. Okay, here we are on the second half of turn 1, where the Deathwing get to respond. Let's go and have a look and see what's happening. So there's really not a lot for the Deathwing over here. There wasn't any shooting at all. We had the damaged Land Raider move up into position behind this building to stay out of range of their long range ordnance up the back there. We had the Terminators sneak around this side of the board because it looks somewhat weaker for them to assault, and the Dreadnoughts basically have done the same. Really, they're just biding their time for the other Terminators to come out, which there's the Deathwing assault where they all come out at once, but I don't believe they're taking that option, so they'll just come out over the various turns into various positions across the board. We'll wait and see how that responds. I've changed a little bit with the lighting and the setup of my camera, how I've been doing it. I got one of these things. This is not a sponsorship, advertisement or anything like that, but I got one of these to try and get a bit of extra light into the situation. So I've got the setup here ready to try. I've actually used it for the second half of turn 1, and I think it looks better. I'd like to know what people think. because I'm constantly wrestling with camera settings, lighting, that sort of stuff, because I'm not an expert at it at all, but I'm trying to try new things. It's just trial and error, I suppose. So that's the setup there that I've got. I've got the LED video lighting, CN160, up the top there, and we've got my normal remote trigger on the side there. So just a quick look on how this changes the lighting. I don't know if this will help, but that's how it looks there. And I'll just turn it on. You can see that. That's on full there. So that's off. That's full. That's not too bad, but I've got a filter over the top there which changes the lighting, but you can have it like this. I'll just show you this quickly. So as you can see, you get a white light out of that, which looks pretty ordinary, but that's what I've done for the second half of turn 1. So I'll just probably mess with these light settings, so bear with me if they look a bit ordinary for this battle, but I'll work it out over the next battle or so, and we'll hopefully improve what's happening. Alright, we'll wait and see what happens next turn. Okay, here we are on the first half of turn 2, where the Genestealer Colts are advancing across the board. Let's go and have a look. So the Manticore here couldn't really get a shot off at anything there, so because the Land Raider actually just snuck behind this building here, so that just advanced up. Likewise with these other tanks, there's really nothing to shoot at because everything for the Deathwing is in deep strike over here, ready to come out over the following turns, so they couldn't really do a lot of damage at all. Over this side, probably the only thing to note is that the Magus here jumped onto a passing vehicle and took out one of the Terminators here, which is a fairly lucky shot, but nonetheless that's the only casualty that turn. And really the Genestealers are getting fairly bold here because there's nothing really to resist them on this side of the board, but that's all about to change. So also, I don't know what your thoughts are, but in the Deathwing turn before, we used this filter. You can't quite see it, this is a little bit better. And it kind of almost looked like night fighting almost. So I don't know what anyone's thoughts are, whether they're using this filter probably for some night fighting battles might be good. But now I'm using another filter. I don't know if you can see this one here. It's a bit hard to see. It looks all white there. I might just turn that off. But it's just like the light filter, the white filter. I'm not really sure of the name of these things, but that seemed to get better pictures, I think, for that turn. But no doubt I'll find out after I compile this video later on. So that's where we stand at the first half of turn 2, and we'll see what the Deathwing can do in response. Okay, here we are on the second half of turn 2, where the Dark Angels Deathwing make their responses. So let's see what's happening. We've had some deep striking happen. We've got 2 more units still to come, here and here. But we had a unit here try to take out and clean out some of those cultists there, trying to get to the back of this Manticore here, because that's going to cause some, or already has caused some damage over there to the Land Raider, but it's could cause more damage, so they're going to try and take that out. Likewise, another unit of Terminators have snuck behind enemy lines and are trying to attack the rear armour of the Genestealer vehicles. Over this side we had another deep striking unit come in behind some heavy cover there and take out a few gangers there as they advance. and we had another unit up the top here and try and take position on that building, which should, and they actually took out a vehicle which was, oh, I took it into the other room, so it's gone. So that got taken out. Likewise over this side we had 2 units of Terminators advancing, one to there and one over to here, and the combined firepower of 4 dreadnoughts with assault cannons took out all bar 4 of that mass squad of Genestealers, Genestealer acolytes. So that's what we have. We've got basically a Genestealer sandwich here. We've got Deathwing on one side, Deathwing on the other, and all the Genestealers in between. We'll see what happens next turn. Here we are on the second half of turn 2, where the Genestealers respond to the deep striking Deathwing. So over here we've had these cultists and Patriarch and the Magus combine and take out not too many of those Terminators there. They also had some heavy fire from some looted Lieben Rusters there, and still 4 remain. Over this side we've got the Neophytes and a Chimera turn around and take out 1 Terminator here, so as expected those guys are holding up pretty well. Over this side, really these guys here are trying to defend the Manticore with their extended firepower, which is fairly strong and can take out Terminators like it did in this turn. It took out 1 Terminator just there, and also I don't know how it didn't take out that Land Raider there that's on its last legs, but it's still going. Over this side we saw some gangers move up and take out a Terminator as well. The fire from the Wyvern there didn't do any damage. Over this side we saw some aberrants, and that crazy guy with the Gelic Knight belt is creeping up, trying to get close so he can explode himself. We've seen the Genestealers move up into close proximity. They'll get into close combat fairly shortly. Over this side we had the Magus on the back of the truck try and take out a Terminator there, but to no avail, and the Patriarch over the back there is using the truck as cover over that side. Over this side we tried, the last 4 remaining acolytes tried to take out a Terminator over here, but that didn't work, and those guys are very exposed to the concentrated fire of the dreadnoughts. So overall we didn't see too many casualties on the Deathwing side, but they don't really want too many casualties because there's not too many of them. In fact, on that turn we had these casualties here. 1, 2, 3, 6 casualties. 6 casualties. Anyway, next turn we've got some more deep striking units here and here, and we'll see how the turn progresses. So that's the end of turn 2. Turn 3 is up next. Okay, here we are on the second half of turn 3, and all the chips are on the table, or all the models are on the table, but let's go and see what's there. So we had a Dark Angel turn, the Deathwing, and they did a few things. Firstly, the Land Raider up here came and shot a bunch of cultists just there. The 2 Terminators that were hiding behind that barricade there came round and took out a truck, which is now sitting in the casualties up here. We had the last remaining deep striking Terminators come here and try and shoot down the Manticore there, but didn't do any damage. But they really want to get into close combat there to take that out, because they're pretty nasty, those missiles there. We had these Terminators here take out the remaining cultists, which are now up here. They were there, and the Patriarch and Magus turned tail and ran up the side there, so they're just sitting there. we had this unit of Terminators turn the corner and take out another truck. Oh, sorry, no, it was actually the Chimera that is now sitting there. So that came and spilled out a heap of acolytes who were there waiting to get some retribution. We had another deep striking set of Terminators touch down just there and take out a handful of neophytes there. So a bit of carnage is going to happen around this area over the coming turns. And I reckon we'll see what happens with that Manticore there, because he's looking pretty precarious position just sitting next to all those Terminators. Don't know what they're going to do. Anyway, we also had the group of Terminators at the top here shoot down into what was a bunch of Genestealers just there, and it was followed up by some assaulting from a group that was just around the corner of that building there. So they just turned around and, look, they didn't quite take out the unit, but getting pretty close. And over this side we had a group of Dreadnoughts turn and take out 4 acolytes that were sitting there. A little bit of an overkill, but that's what they did. This group of Terminators here with Belial had a shot at the Magus there, but it was fairly well protected by the barricade and being mounted in that truck just there. So there we have it, lots of carnage going all over the board, pretty evenly balanced. We've got turn 4 coming up next, and there should be a fair amount of casualties coming from that. Let's wait and see. Here we are on the first half of turn 4, where the Genestealers try and consolidate after the Deathwing have had their deep striking. So let's have a look and see what's happened. We've seen the Land Raider get taken out over here, which is now sitting up there in the casualty section. And really this unit of Terminators is sitting here ready to assault some armour in the next turn. But we saw some cultists turn around and fire and take out 2 Terminators from that squad there. They've taken them out with, I think there's various melter weapons just here. It's hard to get a focus on them, but yeah, the melter weapons taking care of the Terminator armour. We saw the Magus and the Patriarch continue to run behind the security of that building there. We had some las cannon fire here from these 2 tanks here, take out 2 Terminators here on that group. Now there's a fairly large melee here with different Genestealer units, a few Broodlords, Aberrants, and they basically came in and assaulted these Terminators. There's only 2 left. They're holding their ground there, but are looking in dire peril. Over here there was some Wyvern fire at the HQ unit for the Deathwing. No casualties there. The Magus driving the truck over the back here, instead of going after the Dreadnoughts over there, turned around and exposed its back armour to the Dreadnought, trying to offer some huge big juicy target and try and take it out, rather than these guys trying to get involved in the combat over this side. So he's trying to sacrifice himself, very un-Genestealer like. I suppose Genestealers sacrifice themselves, don't they? I didn't really think that through. Anyway, so he's doing a very Genestealer like thing, I guess, sacrificing himself for the hive mind. There you go. And over this side we've had acolytes and neophytes charge into respective units of Terminators. A few Terminators got taken out, but also a lot of Genestealer cultists. So I'd say those cultists are really just biding their time, trying to soak up movement and turns of the Terminators until they can get reinforced. I'd say it's fairly evenly balanced at this stage. Don't know how it's going to go. We'll wait and see what happens. We've got turn 4 part 2 coming up next. Okay, here we are on the second half of turn 4, where the Deathwing have really taken control, I think, of this battle. We've had the last two remaining Terminators in this group here come and take out a Lehman Russ there. Even though they're fairly exposed there, that's a pretty good takedown. Over here we had this group of Terminators take out Manticore there. So it's finally gone, caused a lot of havoc, that did. Over this side we had a group of Terminators come down off that building there just to get into position behind some cover over here, just to try and get in amongst these cultists here, who are probably one of the last remaining threats, because some of these guys have got melter weapons which aren't friendly for Terminators. Over this side we had Belial and his group come in and assault and join the fray, I suppose, here, and there's quite a bit of carnage in there. We've had two Terminators. There's a casualty just here, and also Broodlord and some accompanying Stealers there. Over this side the Dreadnoughts took the bait and took out the Magus driving the truck. That's a fairly strong unit over there. There's not really much in the way of Genestealers left. So we're only at the end of turn 4, but Genestealers turn next, see what can happen. We have this group of Terminators here win the combat, and basically we had the, I can't remember the names, at Primaris, is it? Who fled from combat there. Over here the Acolytes held up a little bit better. There's only 3 of those guys left, 3 Terminators. Those Acolytes probably toast, but we'll wait and see what happens next turn. So all in all, I think the Dark Angels have got the upper hand, but we'll see what happens next. We've got the Magus next turn here, and the Patriarch, who they might re-enter the fray. Also we've got some las cannon carnage there, which can probably take out a Terminator, so still a few things can happen. We'll wait and see what happens in turn 5. Subscribers, here we are at the first half of turn 5. We've seen the Genestealers strike very hard, and the Deathwing have probably had one of the worst turns you could possibly imagine. I'll just run through what's happened on the board. We had the Primus continue to run away from combat here, and it's just sitting there. There was a combat here between 3 Acolytes and those Terminators. The Acolytes just got crushed. That's probably the good part for the Deathwing. What happened next was we had the Wyvern turn around and take out 2 Terminators there. Over this side, there was a group of 2 Terminators there. One of them got shot down by some las cannon fire, and the Patriarch and Magus sort of picked up their boots and turned around and charged in and took out the remaining Terminator, so they got taken out as well. The other Wyvern here and all the cultists, especially with those melter guns, just completely took out a complete unit of 5 Deathwing there. So that was just, you know, really bad luck on their behalf. Over this side, where the Deathwing should have really crushed the Genestealers here, it was fairly even, and we were left with 2 Terminators, Belial, Broodlord that's fairly wounded, and a couple of Aberrants there, so they probably will win that combat, but they didn't really crush it as much as they should have. I suppose on a good side, we've got, next turn, we've got some Terminators here, which will no doubt cause some havoc on those guys there, and the group of Dreadnoughts up the back, which really haven't been hurt a lot. So I suppose the Genestealers fight back, still probably weighted in favour of the Deathwing, but we'll wait and see how it pans out. Okay, here we are on the second half of turn 5, and the Deathwing have made a counterattack. Let's have a look. So over this side we've got this unit of Deathwing, and they climbed in behind this barricade here and fired into the back of those cultists, trying to take out some of those melter weapons, because they caused a fair bit of havoc to the odd Terminator. Didn't take out any melters, but we lost 4 cultists. Over this side, the battle between the Broodlord and Belial rages on, and we've got basically the wounded Broodlord is about to go. That should go next turn, but there's only Belial, Broodlord, and another Terminator. That's it. We've got this talon of dreadnoughts marching across the board, which looks almost invincible at this stage. They just took out a wyvern that was sitting there. We've only got 1 turn effectively left, and I really think the Genestealers can probably try and mitigate or limit what damage those guys can do. Over this side of the board, we had some Terminators move around the corner and try and take out this Leman Russ here to no effect. The last remaining Terminator with an assault cannon there took out the Primus as it was fleeing. So overall, I would say we've got 1 turn to go. Genestealers are going to have to pull something miraculous out, because there's an awful lot of damage dealing units still on the table for the Deathwing. Anyway, let's see how the last turn pans out. Right, first half of turn 6 is now completed, and the Genestealers have pretty much thrown everything they have at the Dark Angels and have probably come up a bit short. The casualties for this turn, we've got 3 Deathwing Terminators. So what we've had here is we've had this Leman Russ turn around and vaporise 1 of those Terminators just there. We had the Patriarch and Magus come in and join forces with the unit of cultists and the wyvern there to try and take out as many of those Terminators as possible behind that barricade there, but only took out 2. The combat with the Broodlord here has been basically a stalemate and no casualties as such there. And that's really all there was in turn 6, first half of turn 6. So we've got a Deathwing turn next turn, and then that will be the end of the battle. But I would say at this stage we'll have a Dark Angel victory. Anyway, we'll wait and see what happens in turn 6. Right, we've finished the last half of turn 6, and that's the battle. We have a Dark Angel's victory. Let's have a look. We had this Dark Angel Terminator over here just sit there and do nothing. He couldn't get a shot at anything from where he stood. So we had these 2 Terminators advance, and this assault cannon took a shot and didn't damage the Leman Russ there. We had 3 Terminators at the back here fire into the cultists and take out 2, which are sitting there. And we have a casualty on the Genestealer side. That's a Patriarch arm there. Not impressed. I get that from time to time, dropping models, etc, etc. Just a standard thing that happens. Over here we had the Dreadnoughts come in and assist in the combat with Belial and the other Terminator there, and took out the Broodlord finally. So they have controlled that area. So that's what we've got at this stage. We've got the Dark Angels have controlled this building here. There's still a few cultists and Genestealers left, but they'll have to slink back into the shadows because they've been defeated. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.